Welcome to your custom website report. Now in this video, I'm going to go through this report and kind of explain a little bit about what each chart is showing you so that you understand what the data is explaining and why it's important. So let's dive in. Now there are 3 pages to this report, and depending on the way that we've set up analytics and Google Search Console within your website, the data might look a little different. For example, if you have everything set up, but a lot of your clients have privacy browsers or things like that might be blocking Google Analytics, some of these charts might not have any data to collect. So we can't always guarantee that your clients are going to allow us to see data from their using your website, but for the ones that we can actually access that data, that will show up in your charts. Now another thing is that for certain clients who request it, we build out fully custom solutions for either acquisition or for conversions. And so that's something that's very different that we don't provide for every client. So for some of these things, it might not be applicable to your business, and that's okay. So as we dive into this, I'll just kind of mention what things are things that we don't offer for every client and what kinds of things are, so that when you take a look at your report, you're not surprised if there's no data there. Okay, so for this first page, we have just a website summary, and this is kind of the most overall important data, things that you're going to want to track pretty frequently, and things that most people have questions about. So this is something that we do for every client, and this is, again, something that you might see slightly different changes depending on what your audience is allowing us to get data on. So up at the top of this report here, we have this entire section that really breaks down the very basics of how your website is performing. And that's the same on every page of this report. There's this drop down here that will allow you to choose what period of data you're looking at. So whether that's for this month or last month or something completely different, maybe you want to look at your data for a year instead of a month, whatever you want to do, you can change this this little drop down menu here, and it'll automatically show you data for whatever period you select. Okay, so then on this page we have a number of sessions. So this kind of gives you an overall view of how much website traffic you're getting. So the number of sessions is the number of times that your site was actually accessed. So you can see we have a comparison of this current period, whatever period you select up here, and then the previous period here in this lighter color. We also have a breakdown of new users versus return visitors to your website, and this can be very important for kind of getting a sense of how well people are continuing to engage with your brand, and also how many new people you're bringing in. Now this one here breaks down what type of device people are looking at your site on, and this is really helpful for making design changes, making sure that the website is performing really well across all devices that people are wanting to access it on. Then we have an overview of which pages are popular on your website, and I'll get into these metrics in just a second. And then we have a breakdown by age and gender, and this one is the most popular one for people to block that data. So we might not actually have any data here because a lot of people have things on their browsers that don't give Google Analytics access to this information. Okay, so like I said up here, the most popular pages, we have a few metrics that we're tracking here. So this is going to be your page title. This tells you what page we're looking at, but then we have unique page views. Now unique page views aren't just the number of times a page was viewed, it's the number of times a page was viewed, and it discounts when the same person views the page multiple times, right? So if I go on to a certain website and I access their contact page 3 times in one session, it's only going to show as one unique page view because I'm only one person. Now, time on page is interesting because it kind of shows us where people are spending the most time, and this shows us kind of how they're engaging with the website. So if you have a page with a whole bunch of data, then you'll want to see a lot of time on that page because that's going to be an indicator that people are actually reacting to that data and really interested in it. Now, bounce rate and exit rate are 2 metrics that people really often get confused about because they're similar, but they indicate very different things. So let's talk talk about exit rate first. So exit rate just tells us the rate that people are leaving your website from a certain page. Now, it might sound like a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing because, for example, if you want a lot of people to book a consult call with you on your contact page, then it's okay if a lot of people exit the website from that contact page, right? Because maybe they've actually gone ahead and booked that call with you and now they can just get out of your website, and that's totally fine. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong. Just take it with a grain of salt and kind of look at the context, because depending on what page that is, exit rate might not be a bad thing. Now, bounce rate is something different. You can think of bounce rate as the rate that people are both entering and exiting on the same page. So they're not looking at any of the content on any of the other pages of your website. And this can actually be not the greatest indication. If you have just a landing page, then that might not be a big deal. If you have a landing page that's very specific, where you know you're sending out that URL and people will just click on that URL, go to that page, do whatever you want them to do, and then get out of there, then a high bounce rate for that landing page is not a big deal. But keep that in mind. It's not just the number of people that are exiting the website from that page, it's the number of people that are both entering and exiting on that page. Okay, so now let's get into some of the more custom things that we might have in your report. Now we have one page on acquisitions, and what acquisitions is just kind of how people are getting to your website. So this is kind of a breakdown here of the different referral channels, or sorry, the different channels that people are using to find your websites. So for example, you might see something like referrals up here. And what a referral is when somebody clicks on a link on somebody else's website and it takes them to your site. So that would be a referral. Direct is when people are typing your URL directly into their web browser. Paid search is if they're clicking an ad to get to your website, and all these other things. So depending on what kinds of channels people are using, these might change a little bit. But basically it tells you how people are finding your website. And then down here, we have a breakdown from Google Search Console, and this is showing us what kinds of search results you're showing up for. So for example, with this particular example, there's Google Magnet is one of the keywords that we're talking about. So when somebody types in Google Magnet, then this website shows up in the search results. And we can see the difference between impressions and clicks here. So impressions talks about how many times somebody has seen your website as a search result when they search for this particular phrase. So that's the number of times they've seen it. But then the number of times it's been clicked on is shown here. So there's a little bit of a difference there. This kind of shows you, like if we were comparing it to Instagram analytics, this would be the equitable to reach basically. And then clicks would be, clicks. Okay, and then we have our marketing campaigns. So this is something that we don't give to every client. Not every client sets up custom campaigns. But when you do actually create these custom marketing campaigns, sometimes what will happen is we'll create for you a unique vanity URL that's specific to that particular marketing campaign. So let's say, for example, that you wanted to run a magazine ad and you wanted to track how successful that magazine ad was. What we would do is we would create a custom URL specifically for that magazine ad, and then that way when we see our analytics data, we can see how many people actually visited that URL, and that way we can gauge how many or how successful that magazine ad was, right? Because that's the only place we use that URL, so those are the only people who would have access to it. Now, this is similar. This is the types of campaigns that are most effective. When we create those custom campaign URLs, we also tell Google what kind of campaign it is. So whether it's a magazine or a postcard or, any other thing like that, maybe it's an email campaign, whatever it is, we kind of break it down into those categories or mediums. And this chart here is going to show you what kinds of mediums are performing best. Now, this isn't the individual campaign, but more the type of campaign, so that you can see whether your campaigns on doing things through magazine ads are more successful than your email marketing campaigns, things like that. Okay, now the last page we have is conversions. And conversions goes really deep into the goals that you set out for your website. So this is not something that we provide for every client because it's so specific. So for example, some clients have goals of getting more sales booked through their website, and there's very specific links that they want people to click on, or very specific buttons that they want people to click on that indicate whether they've made a sale. Other people want to book inquiries through their website, and other people just want to refer other people to different places, like if they're a directory or something like that. So this is why we don't provide this service for every one of our clients, because everybody's goals are super different, right? So we have to build a custom system to track those goals and conversions for every client who requests this. But basically, if we have set up any goals for you, then this is the data that you'll be able to see. Here we have conversions. Now this is just the number of people that have completed the goal that you set out or that you set up with us. So whatever goal that is, this shows you the number of completions and the change over time. And then our goal conversion rate is a comparison of how many people accessed your website versus how many people actually went and did that goal that you have, right? So this kind of shows you a little bit of that. Then we have conversions by page, and conversions by page show us where the goal completion took place. So if you want people to book a discovery call with you and that happens on your contact page, then you'll want to see a lot of goal completions for the contact page. Now, another thing here is button interactions, and this tracks how many people are actually clicking on a specific button within a specific page. And this will show you how many users did that, and this shows the change over time. So this shows increase or decrease or whatever, so that you can track what buttons are most popular. Now here we have conversions by acquisition channel. And remember, I said acquisition channels are really how people are finding your website. So here we can see a breakdown of the number of times people are accessing your website and the number of times people are completing your goals based on where they came from. So maybe you might find that people who click on your Google ads, your paid search to get to your website, have way more sessions but way less or way fewer goal completion, something like that. So that data is really interesting to see how your marketing efforts are performing and where you're getting most of your goal conversions as far as your outreach, whether people are showing up and they're being really engaged with your website because they came from paid search results or direct or anything like that. Sometimes that information can be really helpful in tailoring your marketing efforts. All right, so that is a general overview of your website report. If you have any other questions for us, don't hesitate to reach out. And if you want us to set up these custom goal reporting systems for you, then definitely let us know and we can help walk you through that process and see if that's what you need. All right, have a good day. Thank you so much.